Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a very quick and simple workable prototype in Adobe XD. Now what I want this to do is to be able to act like a real website or a real app and allow us to have navigation buttons and showcase our design before we get into the nitty-gritty of coding it, because working off of a wireframe like this is going to be a lot simpler than just coding from nothing. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into actually working with this wireframe. So a lot of the times you'll hear the phrase form follows function. And while that's true most of the time, I personally like starting with a little bit of interest to kind of help me set the tone for like a wireframe or any sort of piece that I can then build from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this website. It's called Pexels. All of the photos you can find on here are going to be completely royalty free and you can use them for anything. So I'm just going to search for like forest because I'm in a real fall mood. See if they have one that's kind of autumnal. If not, oh, this one's cool. Let's just pick this one. So I'm just going to download it, show it in the folder, and now this one we can just drag and drop it straight into XD. Alright, so this is kind of a bit of a big picture, but let's say I want to make it a landscape photo. Now this one, I think I'm just going to rotate it so you can see if you go to the corner, you can get that little icon, and then if you click and drag that, you can rotate it. And then if you hit shift, it will snap to different angles like 45 or 90 degrees. So we're just going to do that. And go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So I'm just grabbing one of these and holding Alt so that it scales from the center. Now this is a lot bigger than I want it to be. So how I'm going to fix that is I'm going to go ahead and grab a rectangle here and just drag out the shape that I want the picture to be in. Okay, and then I'm going to select both of them. Mask with shape. There we go. So now this picture exists within the shape and will only render inside of its bounds. So if I double click, you can see this this photo here, and we can move the photo around inside of its frame, or we can scale the frame even to continue to fit the picture. And you'll see that as you scale it, it will just sort of try to make that picture look good. So that's my favorite way to handle images in XD, because you can kind of be really precise about how they look, and you don't have to like bring them into a secondary software and crop them. You can just crop them how you want them in the picture. Okay, so this is going to be our header image. Now, if we're doing a website, we'll probably also want a header bar. So I'm just going to take this, and what I think we need is a color palette. Either I can go get one, or I can just pick one off of this image. So if I hit the eyedropper tool over here, you can see that we can get a pixel perfect selection of any color we want. I think that orange is definitely going to work for now. And then once we have that, I can just make a title. So I'm going to try to center that. You can see that blue line is going to be the center of the canvas. I don't have any particular plans for what this is going to look like, so I'm just going to put in some nice filler text, and if we click here, we can center that. Except for it's going to center to where it was. So if we can just drag that back to where it is, you can see you can snap to the center. We're going to make this a lot bigger, say like 50. Oh, that's still not big enough. Let's do like 70. Times New Roman is real boring, so I think I'm going to see if I've got anything nicer than that. There, that's a pretty standard web design font. I'm gonna go ahead and make that extra bold. Maybe not quite. I'm just gonna drop the opacity on this a little bit to make it actually. To avoid that, I'm just going to drag out another square of the same size. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a darker color like that one. Drop the opacity on this by quite a bit. And then select both that and the border and send them both to the back with Control-Shift left bracket. Alright, so now we've got our website and a title. Now we need some navigation buttons, right? Because right now this is just nothing, and in order to get something from it, we need to be able to interact with it. So I'm just going to do just a really simple button here in the middle, drag it out, grab the color from the other one. And in fact, I like this color so much, I'm going to go ahead up to this Document Assets panel, and I'm going to hit the plus button. And now what this is going to do is add that color and also its border, which we can deselect the border, but it's going to add that like tiger orange color that I've got into our assets, so we can grab that from anywhere. We don't have to go find it in our design. So I'm going to just round the corners a little bit, and I'm just going to copy the website title, bring it to the front, and let's make this not quite as bold, maybe not quite as big either. I'm just going to put some web design text in there. Maybe shrink our button so it looks a little better. And if you want to make sure that these two assets are perfectly aligned, you can go up to these little things with the lines through them at the upper top of your screen, and you can hit the align middle and align center. So that's just going to set it so that all of its waypoints are perfectly aligned vertically and horizontally. All right, so we want this button to send us somewhere else. We want it to send it to this next page. So let's just throw something onto this next page too, so that we can kind of get a feel how this is going to work. I'm going to rename this one to back. And we can always change that to something a little more interesting. But for now, we're going to go over to the prototype tab. It's going to be up top next to design. And here we can grab this, and you can see this little arrow at the side. And we're just going to grab that arrow and drag it to the page we want it to direct to. So I want it to direct us to this secondary page. And here we have a bunch of different things. So we have the trigger, tap, drag, keys and gamepad, voice. Your most important one is going to be tap. It says tap because it's kind of thinking about mobile, but since this is a web page, tap and click are going to be exactly the same. So now we can choose our transition type. These aren't really all that important, and they're just sort of extra flavor you can add on top of your website. So I would say don't even worry about these ones. There is some easing, which if you've ever done animation, it basically just describes how something moves into the next thing. So I'm going to choose ease in and out because that's going to make that transition very smooth. And for the animation, instead of dissolving, I'm going to do slide left, I think. And then if we go over to our other one and hit this one, you can see it also has an arrow. And I'm going to drag this back to our home page. And as you can see, it remembers all of the settings that I put on the other one. So all of the ease in and the slide left are still there. However, since we're going back, I'm going to have it slide right. So now we can see how this looks. So if we go back to our original page, you can see all of the connections here, but I'm going to hit the play button up top, and this brings up a desktop preview. And now if we hit our button here, get started, you can see it goes to our next page. So this way we can get a really easy functioning website together incredibly quickly. So let's say that we wanted our main title page to be a lot longer. So it was the sort of thing you could like scroll through to get more information, right? So we're going to take our artboard tool and select this artboard here, or select the artboard, take the artboard tool, and then holding this handle at the very bottom, we can just drag it down. And this is going to leave a a dotted line so that we know where that first page is. And so everything beneath this dotted line is only going to show up when you start scrolling. So I am going to go ahead and pull up some filler text. Typically, filler text is called lorem ipsum. It's just sort of a thing that designers use to fill in space. So I'm just going to grab like a paragraph or two of that. Now, if you're actually making a website or an app, you'll want to fill this in with actual information. So if you're doing something like this, I would say the most important thing is to make sure that you don't leave your filler text just in your website, because it's really easy to push that through all the way to the end. So now you can see that because I've been messing around with all of these other things, that it's using the same text style from the button. So I'm going to hit Control A to select all of that, choose this color so that you can actually read it, make it left aligned, and then decrease the text size to something like reasonable, like let's say 20, which looks a lot smaller. You'll have to forgive me. Sometimes my my control button doesn't work quite right. So what I've done instead is I selected both of these and I've held Alt and Shift to let me drag it out a little bit easier. I'm going to change this one to... So this one, if we go into the Prototype tab, you can see that it is not connected to the next page because it is a copy of the other one. So it doesn't keep your prototype styles, which is really nice because that way if a button leads somewhere but you need another button that looks exactly the same to not lead to that place, it's not going to get super confused. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab this and bring it down. At least we should be able to. Okay, so when we do that, you can see that it adds this little bar here. Now what that does, if we go ahead and play this thing, if we hit go down, it will jump us down to the top. But as you can see, when we did that, it kind of snapped. So I am not a big fan of that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add just a little bar here in the center. Maybe make the border color that one. Increase it so you can see the size. And if we go back to the prototype, instead of here, you can snap it to that. So these are just two pretty easy ways to make different styles of websites, because some of them will be like multi-page like this one, and you can add all of your information here, or it will be the sort of thing where it's all on one page, so either people can scroll down or they can click a button and snap down to that segment. Whichever style you choose to do, XD can handle both of them, and it's a really robust tool for letting you actually handle those. So hopefully that helped. And if you have any questions with XD, feel free to direct them towards your Gear Up coordinator, and they can always contact me or they can help you out themselves. So good luck.